All right, so this story here I find super fascinating. The Federalist Society are basically, it's like a right-wing judicial group. And this is the group that's responsible for getting all of these conservative charlatans on the court, right? They all come out of the Federalist Society. So ideologically and philosophically and politically, I could not disagree with them more on their core beliefs. I want to be clear about that up front. Having said that, this is pretty big news. So the Federalist Society turned on Trump. Hard right legal scholars say Trump is disqualified from office. This is in MTN. They say, right-wing legal cabal finally seeks to destroy the monster they created. Two Federalist Society law professors have published their findings stating that Trump is disqualified from serving as president based on the originalist interpretation of the 14th Amendment ban on anyone who has engaged in insurrection against the United States from running for office. Federalist Society professors William Baud of the University of Chicago and Michael Stokes Paulson of the University of St. Thomas published a sweeping 126-page paper which stated, quote, Donald Trump cannot be president, cannot run for president, cannot become president, cannot hold office unless 2/3 of Congress decide to grant him amnesty for his conduct on January 6th. I'm going to get to my breakdown on this in a second, but I'll give you a little hint of it now. I think they're flipping the way that it works. They're flipping the order in the way that it works. So they're right about this provision of the Constitution about insurrection against the U.S. and you're barred from office if that were to happen. But my gut instinct tells me you would need like a conviction of an attempted insurrection in order to then say you're barred from running for office or being president or holding any office, not just president of the United States. So here they say, in a particularly damning section of their piece, Baud and Paulson state that Trump engaged in rebellion and gave aid and comfort to others engaging in rebellion against the United States. Read that section of the article here. The bottom line is that Donald Trump both engaged in insurrection or rebellion and gave aid or comfort to others engaging in such conduct with the original meaning of those terms as employed in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. If the public record is accurate, the case is not even close. He is no longer eligible to the office of presidency or any other state or federal office covered by the Constitution. All who are committed to the Constitution should take note and say so. We've actually read that provision on the show. We did it either on January 6th or like a day or two later, because it is true. That was the real path to sort of making sure Trump never gets back into office. Is, the criminal charges might have been much more difficult, might have been a stretch, criminal charges on insurrection in particular. But when it comes to the provision of the Constitution that they're referring to, it is kind of black and white. It is kind of clear. But again, the reason I think they're being overconfident here and they're overstating it is that I think in order for this to be invoked, you would need an actual conviction on some sort of insurrection-related charge. And I think Jack Smith is doing a phenomenal job with the indictments. I read the whole 45-page indictment, and it was very detailed and very nuanced and very intelligent. But it's not like one of the charges is insurrection or like attempted insurrection or anything relating to insurrection. There's other charges that I think are honestly easier to get Trump on, where there's a more straightforward argument. And so while I wish these guys were right, I hope they are right. And I hope people will run with this narrative because it's true. If you read that portion of the Constitution, you'll be like, oh my God, it does seem like he's disqualified from office. I just think on a technicality, it wouldn't actually work. So, but either way, I like the idea that there's right-wing, originalist constitutionalists out there from a right-wing, well-respected group in their circles saying, this guy is not even, it's not even an open question. He shouldn't even be allowed to run. Never mind, be president of the United States. So it's like they're kind of desperate and trying to find workarounds and ways to we see he's leading by 1 million points. We got to get him out of there. And they're trying to get this out there and, spread the word far and wide. I wish their interpretation was correct, but I think you do need some sort of criminal conviction on some insurrection-related charge in order for him to not run anymore. Because what they're doing is they're saying, well, plain face reading of it, he is guilty of an insurrection. So obviously now if he were to run, Congress would have to approve it because the default thing is that he's guilty of an insurrection. But he would just argue the default thing is I'm not guilty of an insurrection. You have to prove that. And so I think the burden of proof is in the opposite direction that they say it is. Anyway, that's the breakdown of it. I wish they were right. It's a clever argument. I think intuitively it makes perfect sense, but you have to prove it first, and they're not even trying to charge him with insurrection or attempted insurrection. And so we're going to have to settle for the criminal charges that they are going after him for. But the good news is, I think he's guilty of a lot of those crimes, And at least with some of those cases, we might get the decision before the general election, which means his ass would be locked up. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.